Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm Michelle Morris from Consolidated Planning Group. I am very, very happy you're here. This is one of my favorite webinars to present. We're going to be talking about transitioning your child into adulthood and some of the things that you need to think about as your child turns into an adult, right? I mean, they're always going to be babies in our eyes, our little ones, but they do grow up fast. And when they turn 18, there's a lot of things that can change. So I want to let everybody know that we are recording this webinar. We record every webinar that we do. And we put them on our YouTube channel after we finish the presentation. So I've put a link to our YouTube channel in the chat box along with my contact info. If you have any questions after the webinar is over that I haven't gotten to, feel free to reach out to me directly and I'm happy to help. As far as those questions, it's really easiest for me if you put them into the chat box. That way I can do the presentation and watch the chat box at the same time and get all of your questions. I cannot see you or hear you, but I know you're out there. So feel free to enjoy your lunch or whatever you're doing while you listen and watch. Okay. So again, this webinar, we host webinars every day and we often have kind of co-sponsors. Today's co-sponsor is Behavior Frontiers. Unfortunately, she had a family emergency to deal with, so the representative from Behavior Frontiers could not be here with us today, but we do truly appreciate her and the work that they do at her company. So there is a quick overview about their company, about Behavior Frontiers. And if you want more information about what they do, we'd be happy to help you with that. So again, I'm Michelle Morris from Consolidated Planning Group. We are a financial planning firm based just outside of Houston, Texas. And we focus on planning for special needs families. So if you have a loved one in your life who has any kind of intellectual or developmental disability, we help families with things like protection plans, thinking about what happens if mom or dad or one of the caregivers passes away early, or what happens if the main breadwinner in your household passes away early. We can think about lifetime care planning for your loved one after your death. If they can't be independent, if they can't hold a job that's going to really pay for all of their needs, they're going to need your help even after you're gone. We talk a lot about transition planning, and that's what we're going to focus on today. We talk about ABLE accounts, and we can help set those up for you. We can help you understand how and when to use them, and we will go through a little bit of that information today. And of course, we are here to advocate for you and to educate you. This passion comes from having special needs children of our own. Both the owner of the company and the partner, the advisors of the company, we all have kids with some kind of disability. And that's why we truly put our hearts into becoming experts in this area and truly understanding the nuances of planning for families like ours. There are over 263,000 financial advisors across the United States. But out of those 263,000, fewer than 200 financial advisors in the United States focus on special needs planning. That's less than 0.1%. So if you're feeling lost and you're feeling like there is nobody out there who truly understands all of these things, that's probably why. It's because there's so few of us. But you have found us now. So take a deep breath with me. You can worry less now because you have found an expert source, right? So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about launching your child into adulthood and how to help your teenager find their path. What's next for them. So first of all, when you're thinking about what is going to happen after high school, right? Because when they're in high school, that's pretty, solid, and they've got a place to go every day and you've got a support team helping you out. But when they're finished with high school, either they graduate or maybe they go into an 18 plus program, but when that ends, then what? You don't want your child just to graduate to playing video games on the couch all day, right? So you need to think about what's going to happen next. We want you to have realistic expectations and don't compare your child to everyone else. I know it's hard. There's Facebook, there's TikTok, there's Instagram, and people put the prettiest pictures on those social media platforms. They're not talking about how hard it is day to day. They're not talking about the failures. They're talking about the wins and the successes. We don't want you to compare your child to your friends on Facebook or your neighbors. Every child is different. Some people use that adage about if a flower isn't blooming, you don't blame the flower, you give it better water or soil or light. I like to think of it as kind of like popcorn because that's my favorite snack. And when I make popcorn, I make it on the stovetop because that's how my grandpa taught me. So, you put the popcorn in the pan on the stovetop, there's oil in there, and all of those kernels go in at the same time, pretty much, right? They're all in the same pot, in the same oil, but not all of them come out exactly the same. Every popcorn kernel is different, and every popcorn kernel is going to pop at a different time. You have some that, start off a little early, and then, like a bell curve, you have many, many more come about in the middle, and then it tapers off, and there's some popcorn kernels that pop right at the end or not at all. And you can't blame the kernel itself. You put them all in the same place and the same resources, and they all come out different. And that's how our children are. It's fine. There are challenges and there are strengths that come along with your child's diagnosis, and they're all different. So maybe they're all going to take different paths. You don't need to worry of if maybe your child isn't ready to drive right at age 16. As a matter of fact, overall, I've seen that it seems like teenagers these days are kind of putting off things like worrying about driving right at age 16. So maybe keep an open mind about what might be right for your child. Maybe that's delaying their driver's license. Maybe after high school, a trade school would be good or some kind of a community college. My son, one of my sons went to airplane mechanic school, and he learned how to work on aircraft. It's fantastic. It's not a traditional 4-year college path, but it is just as valid to go to a trade school or a community college. What about work? There are great programs through the Texas Workforce Commission. There are other programs out there available to help your children. There's Project Search. There's several different options out there for you. There are also registered apprenticeships through the United States government. They could have, maybe they do want to go to college and that might be a good fit for them. There are programs that can help them in college. There, one program that we've highlighted here in some of our webinars is called Canopy College Coaching. They can help you during the college years. There are even dorms. There's a dorm called Mansfield Hall available at colleges in certain areas where they have their students all live in the same dorm and they take care of them and help them get to classes and all of that. Maybe a reduced college course load. You don't have to go to college and take a full course load. You can do one or two classes at a time and see how that works. And then again, maybe you can live at home and still go to college courses. There are so many options. You just have to remember that, with our children, we want to build that self-esteem. We don't need to make comparisons. Why can't you do this like that person? Because I'm not that person, right? So it's fine. Take those things into consideration and understand that finding a good fit is a big job. There are a lot of things to consider. Maybe when you're looking at schools or colleges for after high school, you maybe that's a good thing for your student to do, your person. But you've got to find a great school. You've got to find one that has the programs that they're interested in. You want to find one that has a robust Office of Disability and something that's going to be a good fit size wise and price wise for you, right? When it comes to their extracurricular activities, you want to find things that are going to be fun and entertaining and safe. Maybe the extracurricular activity is going to be something that will help lead to a job in the future. Um, the career path, finding a good fit in your loved one's career path. Of course, you want to involve them and help them think about what they enjoy doing, what those extracurricular activities and hobbies are that they like. How can we help find a career focused on the things that your child already loves to do? And you want to take into consideration their functional abilities as well, because if you have a loved one who cannot stand loud noises, you don't want them to go work in a place with exceptionally loud noises. Maybe they like music. They think it would be good to work in a concert venue, but it's very, very loud and they don't like loud noises. So you have to help them think through those things. Maybe your loved one really likes to just sit and be quiet, or maybe they can't sit and be quiet and that's just not part of who they are. So maybe finding a job where they have to sit and be quiet, like working at a bank, might not be good for them. So think about those things, the work environment, the work setting, what their life will look like as you're trying to find a path for their future. So what about accommodations? When they're in school, all the way through high school, you've got your plan, your IEP, whatever you have in place in terms of accommodations for your loved ones. Those things don't just transfer over to college. When your child goes away to college or comes out of high school, you need to be prepared. Check early what requirements are there, but you can have accommodations for things like the SAT and ACT courses, tests. You can have accommodations for AP exams and college courses, even graduate level exams. Just check with the companies and the schools that provide those exams. Like I know Praxis does some like professional level exams, and there's the College Board and all of those kind of things. They might want to know why you need these certain accommodations, and they might even want some updated testing as proof that you need these, but you can ask for them. I did mention the Office of Disability at the college. Every college should have an Office of Disability, but they're not all created equal. Some of them have a lot of great, robust programs and a big staff. Some of them might be just one person or a couple people, and they don't really have very much to offer in terms of support for your loved one. So check into that, okay, if you're thinking about college. You will definitely want to have a FERPA on file with the college. That will help give you the right to gather information on behalf of your student. And you can even say on the FERPA form exactly what kinds of information the school is going to share with you. If your child is over age 18 as you probably understand from their doctor's office, the doctor's office and the schools, they don't have to talk to you as parents anymore. And it's not the same like when they were young and you call up their teacher and find out what homework they're missing or how their school day went. It's not like that anymore when they go away to college. So having a FERPA on file would be very helpful. You also want to think about getting a healthcare power of attorney and a general power of attorney for your college students, whether they're neurotypical or have needs, and your aging family members. And while you're at it, you might as well do it for yourself. I have, when I sent my oldest away to college, I'm here in Houston and he went away to school in Chicago. We did get a power of attorney set up for him because, he's over 18, he's an adult. If he gets in an accident of some kind, the hospitals, his roommates, everybody needs to know how to find us, first of all, and they need to know that we have power of attorney. So we made sure to put those things in place and to let him know and to let his roommates know and all of that. Maybe we went a little too far, but it's good thinking. And since you're doing it, I put him as my spouse first, but then my oldest child, and then my youngest child, and we all kind of signed each other's papers. And it's been working out perfectly fine because so far we haven't needed them, right? Um, Now, when it comes to work, that's below the blue line here. There are also workplace accommodations available. According to the Department of Labor, a reasonable accommodation is required at the workplace as long as it doesn't pose an undue hardship to the employer. So I see I have a question in the chat box. FERPA is an acronym for, I don't even know what it stands for. It's just the form that the school needs you to fill out that tells them that they can talk to you about your student and your student agrees to that. Um, Somebody can maybe look that up and put that in the chat box for us. Anyway, reasonable accommodations in the workplace. So for example, can you make them install handrails? Yeah. Could you make them install a curb cut or a ramp? Probably. Could you make them change to a different building because the building that they're in doesn't have an elevator? That might be way too much to ask of an employer. You can't just have them do anything and everything. But you can check out the Department of Labor website and the Job Accommodation Network website. And these links are going to be clickable. When you receive these slides later on today in your email, you'll be able to just click over to the Department of Labor or the Job Accommodation Network. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for letting us know that FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Thank you. Okay, so there are a lot of great programs at schools all across the country. Now, because we're based in Texas, we're focusing on information for Texas schools, but we can work all across the United States. And there is a great resource called thinkcollege.net. Thinkcollege.net is, I'm going to put it in the chat box. I can't talk and type at the same time. Thinkcollege.net. So this is a database where you can go and you can look at different college programs like the ones listed here and find out, and you can even search by different types of schools, public or private, or if you want a religious based school, or if you definitely do not, or if you want, a large school or a small school, you can put in those things in that database and find programs like these. Um, Now, we don't work for or with any of these programs or these schools. It's just things we've heard about by being in the special needs community. But definitely check them out if you think that you would like for your student to go to college. There are great programs out there for them. Another great option, Bloom Consulting. They have a program called Campus Connections that is designed to help support neurodiverse college students. So when your child goes to the post-secondary education institution, wherever they want to go, so let's say they go to A&M, they can get in-person or virtual support through this program to help with things like mentoring and guidance, problem solving, self-advocacy, things like that. They get connected with a coach, a connections coach, and an individualized support team. Again, we don't work for them, they don't work for us, but we hear it's a pretty great program. It's about $1,000 a month, um, and it is only private pay. Now, if you use VR, the VR program through the Texas Workforce Commission, they might be able to provide some funding to help you pay for something like this. This is very similar to the one I mentioned before, Canopy Campus Consult Coaching. Campus Coaching is another one. But there are several groups out there like this who will help either virtually or in person. So when you're thinking about special needs planning, and that transition into adulthood, maybe they're going to go off to college, maybe they're going to start looking at working options. Um, One question that we received before this webinar was about work. So I do want to make sure that I answer that question as soon as I pull it up. What are some employment options to help with job coaching and stuff like that? So while your children are in the high school level still, actually from ages 14 to 22, there is the Texas Workforce Commission. Every state has a vocational rehab program like what they offer. And you should be able to contact the representative through your child's current school and find out about their programs. They have a summer earn and learn program where they help the children find jobs that, the employer is going to be more supportive and patient with our children because they understand. There's also other programs like that, like Project Search and various programs that will help. Texas Workforce Commission Vocational Rehab also has pre-employment training services, pre-ETS. And what that does is they can do some testing for your loved one and help you figure out like what is keeping them from being able to hold a job. And how do we train them on those areas so that they can do better and they can keep that job. So other things to think about when we're talking about special needs planning, understand the difference between the attorneys and what they do versus your planner and what we do. So we are financial advisors first and foremost, but we can put together kind of a roadmap of what you need to do in terms of benefits and planning and money wise for your loved ones. The attorney, and you do need an attorney that focuses on special needs topics as well, because they're going to help you with the paperwork side of stuff. They're going to help you with the special needs trust paperwork and your will and healthcare power of attorney, things like that. So it's both, it's really important to have both. And it's important that you work with experts who know what they're doing, because if you just go with anyone, maybe you're trying to save money. Maybe your next door neighbor is an attorney and they're like, oh, I'll do that for you for cheap. You might end up spending more money when you have to go back and fix things that either got left out or done wrong, or you could cost your child their benefits. And those waiting lists for benefits and the process to get them can be so long. You'd hate to mess that up. So gather up the documents and the things that you've already done, what you already have in place. And what we would do is we would look at those things and put together recommendations and our observations on what you've got And we say, hey, you missed something, this benefit, or maybe you didn't know, or you haven't done it yet, or maybe you got denied in the past for whatever reason, and it's time to try again. Or maybe, something that you have just is okay, but it's not working to its full potential for you. We can help with all of those things. Um, the letter of intent. A letter of intent is something that we highly recommend everyone does. This is kind of like if you have a grab and go binder, maybe for your kid, where you've got all those important documents, this can go in there. This is a letter that you're going to write about your loved one, about their diagnosis, sure, and who their doctor is, and contact info for your support team. That should all be in there. And maybe, where do we keep the financial documents? What do you need to know? But more importantly, this is going to give you the freedom to write about their hopes and dreams and what you want their future to look like. What family traditions do you have at Christmas time or for other holidays? What religious preferences do you have for your loved ones? What is their favorite hobby? What do you do if they're just having just the worst day? What do you do to cheer them up? Or what if you do this, it's going to cause them to have a meltdown. So don't do that. Those kinds of things go into your letter of intent. I like this to be a family-wide exercise, because of course your loved one has things that they want to say. Maybe their siblings have observations about them that you haven't really kind of thought about, but they know their brothers or sisters' strengths. Dad, mom, both of you get in there and make this a living document that is going to be updated and edited as your child grows and evolves. This should also grow and evolve. And it's like if you are crossing the street tomorrow and get hit by an airplane, haha, um, the person who's going to step into your role as the caregiver for your loved one, write down anything they need to know. That's what the letter of intent is. And again, consider your vision of what you want the future to look like for yourself and for your loved one. Things to think about, as you're thinking about the future. How much money do you need to put into your special needs trust? If your child inherits money directly from you or anyone, it could jeopardize the benefits that they get from SSI, Medicaid, Social Security, the waiver programs. You never want to leave money directly to your child. It has to go to the special needs trust. But how much are they going to need? We can help you figure that out. How do you maximize your Social Security benefits? Now, many people don't know this, but as parents who have paid into Social Security, when you turn on your Social Security retirement, like when you're in your late 60s, your disabled child is going to be able to get a benefit based on your work record if they can't work themselves. It doesn't take anything away from what you get. So let's say your Social Security retirement benefit is $4,000 a month. You get your $4,000 a month, but your child will also get a benefit. They would get half of what you get, $2,000 a month. Later on, when you pass away, your child's amount goes from 50% to 75%, and they will receive that for the rest of their life. So it's super important that we maximize your Social Security for your whole family. And many people think, oh, if I just wait until I'm 70 and let my Social Security grow, that's going to be the most I can possibly get. But when you have additional family members getting benefits, sometimes it makes sense to turn that on earlier so that you can start those benefits coming in. Finally, what happens to my child when I'm gone? It's so important to think about that. And I know that this keeps a lot of people awake at night, laying there thinking about what's going to happen, especially if you don't have close by family members, and you're not, wealthy. you don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to have family members. There are ways to make it work. There are great residential communities. There are group homes that are doing wonderful things. There are companies now that are focusing more and more on filling this need in our society. We need to take care of our loved ones. So think about what's going to happen and let us help you plan for those things. So Chad has a question. Thank you, Chad. I'm going to tell everybody, is it problematic to maximize your Social Security benefit in that it will diminish the benefits they're eligible for? Chad, I think you asked the same question I think I have that question here. So perfect. Thank you for bringing that up for me. So when your child goes on to your Social Security benefit, this one that I've been talking about, how they are going to get a benefit based on your work record, that does not count against them. It does not diminish their other benefits. So generally what happens, like I said, when a child turns 18, maybe I didn't say that in this meeting yet. It's been a long day, folks. Um, Generally, what happens is when your child turns 18, they qualify for SSI, and that should come along with Medicaid. Now, it takes about a year to get that process going. A lot of people get denied and have to apply twice or sometimes more. But when your child gets SSI, they're going to get about, well, this year it's $967 a month. They can't work too much, or else they'll lose that benefit. And they can't have too much in assets. It's $2,000. If they work, that benefit does get reduced, like what you're asking about. So generally, the children are getting SSI for several years before mom or dad turn on their Social Security. At that point, when mom or dad turn on Social Security, or if mom or dad become disabled or pass away, the child would switch from SSI to SSDI, which would be this half of the parent's amount figure. It's generally more than SSI. And if it's not, your child would stay on both. But if SSDI is more, your child will come off of SSI and just get this larger benefit. Now, what about the Medicaid? They will keep the Medicaid that they had through SSI. They'll be able to keep that for the rest of their life. And after your child switches over to the new benefit and they've been on that for 2 years under your record, they're also going to be eligible for Medicare. They'll be dual eligible. They'll have Medicaid and Medicare and this higher benefit based on your record. And that does not diminish any benefits that your child gets from other sources. Thank you, Chad, for your question. So, as you can see, I mean, I've been harping on this. It is so important that you get signed up for these state and federally funded programs and that you don't do anything to jeopardize them because your child's future care is going to be expensive. You know, hopefully you have some life insurance, maybe. That life insurance policy, when you pass away, is going to be able to flow right into your child's special needs trust. That special needs trust will be there to fund their future. But if you lose, you know, those state and federally funded programs, they help pay for transportation and medication and housing and health insurance. And they could pay for therapies. They can pay for home modifications. Um, and housing. Did I mention that they can help you pay for your child's care? So it's really important that you don't mess that up. Some people think, well, I don't need that. Yeah, you do. You do because it's expensive. Um, your life insurance, like I said, and any other assets, your investments, your bank accounts, all of that stuff should be left directly to the special needs trust for your child, not to your child. If grandma and grandpa come along and maybe they want to leave money to your child, you should tell them about the special needs trust as well, because if grandma and grandpa leave your child money, We can fix it, but that money could be counted against them in terms of their benefits. And all of a sudden, they have more than $2,000. They can't get those benefits anymore. So we can do that. We can help you with that through the Special Needs Trust. Now, the other place that you can save up money for your loved one would be in an ABLE account. So many people have heard of a 529 college savings plan. That's a 529C. The ABLE account is a 529A. And the main difference is that the ABLE account is meant for individuals with disabilities. You can put in a certain amount of money each year. This year, it's actually $19,000. I haven't updated that slide yet, sorry. Um, $19,000 for this year. You don't want the ABLE account to go above $100,000 total. That's the point at which Medicaid would say, oh, you've got enough money, you don't need us anymore. It's a tax advantaged savings account. And once you put money into the ABLE account, your loved one can use that money for anything that they need. It can be a car or computer or food, shelter, anything. They can pay for financial services. They can pay for movies at the mall. It doesn't matter. Okay. So the main difference is with the ABLE account, there's a limit on how much you can put in, but there's not much limitation on what they can use it for. However, with the Special Needs Trust, you can put in as much money as you want, but there are some limitations to what you can use it on. You should not use the Special Needs Trust to pay for things like um, rent or utilities or homeowners insurance if your child is still in that phase where they're receiving SSI benefits. I think of the ABLE account kind of like a short-term savings. Like, okay, at the bank, I have a checking and savings account, and most of you probably do too. But because our children cannot have more than $2,000, and they're going to start getting this SSI money, that bank account can fill up and go above $2,000 pretty quick. So you need a place to put some of that money so they can continue receiving the benefits. And the ABLE account is a good short-term savings solution that provides tax-free growth for your child. I think of it as, the savings account. You can connect it to your checking account. We can set it up for you. And then you transfer money over to the ABLE when you have too much in checking. And when you need money to spend, you transfer it back from the ABLE into your checking account and spend it through your checking account as you would naturally. And then you have a transaction record as well built in through your bank. And you don't have to keep track of every single penny because your bank transaction record is doing that for you. Okay. The other thing I want to say is, I want you to think of the ABLE as your short-term savings. I want you to think of the Special Needs Trust as the long-term savings. That's where you put in money that's not going to be touched by your child until you're dead, we hope. That's the long-term money, the life insurance, the investment accounts, that sort of thing. I don't see any more questions yet, so I'm going to keep going. Okay, so that ABLE account. Oops, I've kind of gone through a lot of this already. I got excited. The beneficiary is the account owner, and that's okay. It still won't count against them for any of their benefits. There is income earned because when you put your money in, that money goes to purchase mutual funds. There's an investment portion to the ABLE account. And the mutual funds are purchased with the money that you put in. And then as those funds grow and income is earned, there's no tax that you have to pay on that. When you want to pull out money, it does take a trade day +2 because they have to make a trade to get your cash for those investment funds, and then they deposit it into your bank account. There's not tax deductions for these contributions, except some states on their state income taxes, you can get a deduction. But Here in Texas, we don't have state income taxes, so we can't can't take any tax deductions there. Um, so when should you start thinking about that special needs trust? And when should you worry about guardianship? The special needs trust, guardianship, all of that stuff needs to be done by an attorney. Now, we are not attorneys. We do not have an attorney on staff. What we do is keep a list of all of the attorneys all around the country who focus on these special needs topics and are experts in the field. We don't want you to go to any old family law attorney who, maybe specializes in divorce and has never done guardianship. They're not going to know what to do. Call in an expert. The special needs trust, since it's going to help preserve the eligibility for your loved one, it's important to get that set up as soon as possible because you never know when your time is going to come. And if you pass away and you don't have a special needs trust set up somehow, that money could go to your loved one and create big problems. So get that special needs trust set up. It's not the cheapest process. You do have to have an attorney do it. You can have it to where it is outside of your will and a standalone special needs trust is what they call that, to where you could put money into it right now and start saving in there. And then bring it to us and we will invest that money for you. Or you could have a special needs trust that is called a testamentary trust because it lives in your will. It's not really formed yet, but it says in your will that when you pass away, a special needs trust will be formed for the benefit of your child. And that is where your life insurance and other assets will go. If you put it into your will, it's a little bit less expensive, but you can't fund it yet. You can't fund it until it's formed upon your death. So if grandma and grandpa come along and they want to leave an inheritance to your loved one, you're really going to need a standalone special needs trust. Okay, now when you're thinking about guardianship, we've been talking about kids going to college. If they're going to go away to college, they probably don't need guardianship. And some schools will not allow your child to go away to school and live on campus if they're under guardianship. So you might want to talk to an attorney about guardianship and alternatives to guardianship. We do webinars on that all the time. There is supported decision making, there's partial guardianship, things like that. So when your child turns 18 is when that guardianship needs to happen because as a minor, you are already legally, as their parent, you're already their guardian. It's that time when they turn 18 and going forward that you need to worry about on that. I have another question here in the chat box, so let me read this out and we'll go through this. How do you know how much to fund the special needs trust with upon your death? Is that something the trustee can do? Let's say you have a main trust and the special needs trust. How do you allocate your funds between the two? And how do you know? Because you don't want to overfund one and underfund the other. I got you, Chad. So what we do at Consolidated Planning Group, thank you so much for allowing me to toot our horn for a second. We do a future cost of care estimate where we look at the cost of care that your child might need. So maybe your child needs full 24/7 care. Maybe they're the kind of child who has a G tube or nonverbal or, medically fragile. We look at that level of care and then we inflate it for how many years out your child, they don't need it right now. You're here, but they're going to need it in the future. So what is that cost of care going to be in 20 years? And then when your child is in that care situation for 20 years, how much does that add up to? And then we count the benefits that they can receive as income. You don't have to cover that part. They'll have some benefits to help them. But whatever that number is that's left over, what they need, we run it backwards, starting at their age 90, because that's how long we want your child to live. We run that number backwards, figuring in inflation and interest and investments, income and expenses, all of that stuff. And we come up with a number for you. And we say, as part of our planning process, we say, Chad, if you put X amount of dollars into that special needs trust at your death, your child will be fine. And we plan conservatively. We would rather there be too much than too little. Um, so that is one of the services that we offer. So what if, your child's not going to go to college? There are many, many other options out there. What about a residential program or a transition program or something? There's day programs where your loved one can go during the day and be with friends and socialize, maybe train for a job. Or they can just, go play pickleball and hang out, sports and things like that, and be social and have friends. These are some of the programs around Texas. But again, there are great programs like this all across the United States. On this page, man, this took a lot of work. I made all of these titles into links. So if you get this page later on and you click on Reach Unlimited and that link doesn't work or it takes you someplace wrong, please send me a quick note and just let me know so I can fix it for upcoming webinars. But look for things like a residential community and start thinking about that now, because when your loved one is going to go into a residential community, that's a big transition for them. They're going to move out of the house that they've lived in for so long and move into their next residential situation. And maybe that's a community like Marbridge or 29 Acres or Brookwood. Or maybe that's a different relative's house, or who knows, maybe it's a sibling. You need to make sure that your loved one understands and knows that person and that place before the time comes. Um, Make sure that they know that uncle is going to take care of them and spends time with that uncle and gets to know them, gets to visit the house that they're going to eventually be living in. Make sure that, you go tour Marbridge as a family or whatever residential community. Go tour it several times. Go visit it and let your loved one see it. If you can make that transition before you pass away, that would be lovely, because that way your person gets a chance to go be there and still have you to talk to and help troubleshoot ideas with. And then when you're gone, they're already comfortable there. Wouldn't that be great? Now, I know that is an idealized situation and it's not always going to happen, but if you try, and plus, as we know with our loved ones, there's always a wait list, right? To get into a program or to get onto a benefit or to go into a residential community, there's usually a wait list. So check these places out early for all of those reasons, okay? Now, we're wrapping up. I want to remind you that we do these webinars 2 or 3 times a week. You can go to this link and find a list of our upcoming webinars. You can pre-register for them, and then that way you'll get the slides and the link to the recording afterwards, even if you miss the live show. You can also see if we've got some good topics that you want to share with friends and family or invite other people to. We love that. Other things to keep on your planning radar. I'm going to keep talking, but if you have questions, please continue to put them in the chat box. That future cost of care estimate, golden. It is so important to think about that. The Texas waiver programs, get on those interest lists early. The earlier you can get on those wait lists, the better, because we're hearing that the wait is about 17 to 20 years now. But even if your child doesn't get maybe you're hearing about it for the first time right now. The waiver programs are very effective in helping once you get them. and if you can find suitable service providers. But even if your child doesn't get that until they're like 40 years old, it's still going to be very helpful. So get on the waiting list for the waiver programs. And if you think you might be on the list, but you're not sure, you can go to yourtexasbenefits.com and create an account as if you were your child. Put it all in their name, their contact information, and you should be able to go to manage lists, and that will show you where they are on those waiting lists and what lists they're on. Okay. Able accounts, we can sign you up for one of those, or you can do it yourself. There are Able accounts all across the country. Almost every state has a state-sponsored Able account, but you don't always have to live in that state in order to use their Able account, and they're not all created equal. So we recommend and use the Virginia Able America plan for our clients. Beneficiary designations, remember, don't leave anything. You need to get into your accounts and look on your bank account, your investment accounts, your life insurance, and double check those beneficiaries. Do not leave anything directly to your child. A special needs trust, again, an attorney will help you create a special needs trust. We will help you figure out how to fund it and invest it. If child support is a thing in your life, you are going to need to have, if you're going to have child support after age 18, this is a big transition plan tip. If you have child support beyond age 18 and you're getting that child support, it needs to go into a first party special needs trust, or else the Social Security Administration and Medicaid will count that as income for your child and they'll lose out on benefits. That's very important. Tour those residential living communities, figure out what you want your child's future to look like, and think about guardianship, power of attorney, supported decision making, and those kind of agreements. If you think that you need guardianship, you can get that process started when you're about 6 months out from your child's 18th birthday. And again, we do webinars about all of these things. We can talk about each of these topics for a full hour. And you can look at our YouTube channel to see all of those webinars. So this is our whole team at Consolidated Planning Group. We are not a giant firm. We are located just outside of Houston in the Sugar Land area. And what is really, really cool about us, well, one thing that I think is really cool, is that all 4 financial advisors work together as a collaborative team. So if you call up Consolidated Planning Group and you decide that you want to do a plan with us, you're not working with Michelle Morris at Consolidated Planning Group. You're working with Michelle Morris and her husband, Andy Morris, and Allison Schaberg and her husband, Jeff Schaberg. You're working with all 4 of us, plus our staff who helps with the paperwork and the meeting scheduling and the calls and all of that. You don't just get one of us. All 4 of us work together on every single client that we have. The other thing I want to let you know, and this is it, if there's no more questions, we do offer a completely free consultation. This is over Zoom. Um, we we love doing these. This is, don't think you're bothering us. Don't think, oh, I just have a little question. I don't need a whole consultation. Yeah, let us give you a free consultation. What we do during this time, it's usually about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how many questions you have. We do our best to answer those questions for you up front. What is really keeping you awake? What's your struggle point right now? How can we help you? Once we get through that, we're going to talk a little bit more about you and your family. We ask you to fill out a quick questionnaire before this consultation so that we can see what areas we can give you some advice on. And then we tell you about us and how we work and what we charge. We have planning packages that range in price. We can do things for you at no charge. We can do things for you that are quite expensive. It is all completely customized to you. So if somebody asks you, how much does it cost to work with Consolidated Planning Group? The answer is different depending on that person's needs, anywhere from 0 on up. So you can use the QR code, you can call or email the office, or you can call or email me directly, and I'm happy to get that scheduled for you. Again, it's a 30 to 45-minute Zoom meeting. We'll answer any questions you have and give you some advice on how to move forward. Also, our social media, some of our social media is down there, the YouTube channel, our Instagram. We also have a podcast in case you prefer to listen instead of watching these webinars. And we have our Facebook page. So please reach out. We do not bite, we do not pressure. We are truly here to help. And I hope that I get to hear from some of you soon. So if there are no more questions in the chat box, I'm just going to say goodbye. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. And please reach out if there's anything I can do to help. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.